Today I am going to go through the Act 1 Scene 1 of your ISC syllabus text, which is The Tempest. Now this is the play which you have in your class 11 and 12. I'll be going over Act 1 Scene 1 today. Later on I'll be doing the other scenes. Now before we go into it, we must remember that this is the last play of Shakespeare. In fact, some similarities can be found between the central character Prospero and Shakespeare himself, in the sense that towards the end of the play, you have Prospero, who is a magician. He is bidding farewell to his magic. He is saying, "I'll keep away my magical books and magical wand and bid adieu to magic." Similarly, it's in a way Shakespeare is bidding farewell to stage. So that's why this play is very significant. Otherwise, it's a very short and one of the shortest plays of Shakespeare, and very easy also to understand. Now, first of all, if you have your copies ready, I have told you many times that you have the copy ready to take down notes of certain points and all, because later on I will be discussing the text. First I will tell you some points about it. First of all, this play, this particular scene as such, the Act 1 Scene 1 today we will be discussing. So Act 1 Scene 1 in general has a lot of spectacle in it. Although it has this tremendous amount of spectacle, there is the fact that this is a hint that things are not what they seem to be. Like Shakespeare took a great risk in presenting the scene in this way, because it's not the modern day era when you have all the special effects and VFX and all the other system available. It was in such times of the early 17th century when he presented it, and at that time on stage to present such things is very, very challenging and a kind of a gamble which he took up. But still, as the play progresses, we come to know that things are not what they seem to be. That is, this storm that which we are so tensed about in the beginning is not actually a storm. It's only an illusion created by the magic of Shakespeare. So now you will say the question may arise, then why did Shakespeare do this? Of course, this very simple thing. Being a master dramatist, he wanted to garner and attract the attention of the people towards this play as such, directly. Immediately, when the play starts with a storm, what happens is the rabble or the common people who are in front, the front benchers as you may say, they immediately would keep quiet and they would be attracted immediately to what is going on here, what is this storm about, what is going to happen, what is going to happen to the main characters, will they be saved, will they die? So immediately they are quiet, their attention is attracted to it. So this is one of the master strokes by him to include or start the play rather with this particular storm. Now, so in a way it is an extraordinary presentation of his imaginative vision. Now coming to the importance of the scene. Now Shakespeare's important scenes were known to be important in the sense of introduction of the theme or the important characters or the important ideas of the play. For example, if you take the case of Macbeth. Now in Macbeth you had the witches who were an important element of the play, and with their introduction in Act 1 Scene 1, which is a very short play, the important thing was, the main theme was highlighted, which is fear is foul and foul is fear, hover through the fall and fill the air. Now that theme suggested the entire crux of the play, what is going to happen, what are going to be the things to expect in the play. Similarly, in suppose Merchant of Venice, which you all have done and remember, Act 1 Scene 1 presented us all the main characters except for Shylock and Portia, Nerissa and a few other characters. So you had the main theme of Portia going to meet, Bassanio going to meet Portia. Then you had Antonio Bassanio's friendship and how Antonio's ships are at sea. All the basic main important ingredients like Bassanio's need for money. All these things are basically highlighted out in Scene 1 itself. So, but here you have only the tempest, the storm, and the ship at sea. So you may question, what is the use of this storm? You could have introduced anything else. Now the storm, of course, is very important for the play. This storm acts as the central crux or the central plot of the particular play. Okay, number one. Number two, in case of introduction of the characters, except for Prospero, Miranda, Caliban and Ariel, all the major characters are introduced here. So that way we cannot question or we cannot deny in any way that Shakespeare had deviated in any way in presenting the scene. Now, next is the exchange. There is the exchange between the characters. You have a royalty on board. You have characters like Antonio, Sebastian, Alonso, Gonzalo. All these are the royalty, the people in power. Okay, and then you have a second section of people through the boatswain and the sailors, particularly the boatswain. They are the people who are the people obeying the people in power. They are the kind of the subjects, divided in this way, the king and the nobility, and the other side there's the subjects who obey their orders. So you have that class difference immediately present, where those in power, you have one group of people, those in power, and then you have another group of people, those who are unwilling victims of power. So unwilling victims of power comes to those sailors, boatswain and all, and the people in power are the people of royalty. Now, one important thing which comes out is nature. Nature, what does it do? Nature makes everyone equal. Or this mortal danger, the fear of death, makes everyone equal. This fear of death makes even the royalty and the people who are very common, people like the boatswain and all equal, because the mortal danger of death is looming over all of them. Okay, so mortal danger, danger by nature or crisis makes everyone equal. For instance, you have the recent outbreak of coronavirus, so that made everyone stay indoors. Whether it was a celebrity, whether it was Mukesh Ambani, the richest people, or a commoner, everyone was ordered to be behind doors or at home, stay home and be safe. So everyone was there. The mortal fear had affected everyone. Everyone was behind doors. Everyone was at home. So similarly here also, the fear of death, of being drowned, made everyone the same. So it upset the balance between the two groups. It upsets the balance between the two groups means the people in power, the royalty, they are forced to obey the boatswain, people of the lower class. So it's a very disturbing kind of thing. Nature has upset this balance, and that is what is said here. So this servant and master, we may say, this servant master or ruling class and being ruled class, this conflict is also one of the major themes of the play. The master-servant, we will see in particular, the master-servant conflict. That is one of the important themes of this particular play. So in a way, Shakespeare has introduced that theme also through this first scene. Now, class conflict, if you go into in detail, it was in those days, the Elizabethan or the Jacobean society. It was okay. So the Elizabethan or the Jacobean society in those days was determined by class system, which is said to be by divine rights. That means the aristocracy, the higher nobility, were said to enjoy the power and high position and all these high-ranking fruits of benefits by default. That is, God has given it to them. And you are by nature of the lower class, you are the servant class, you have to obey us. It was somewhat like our Indian society also. The Brahmins and the higher class, they always looked down upon the lower class and said, by birth, by default, you are bound to serve us. We are of the higher class, we will rule over. So that was referred to there. So here we may refer to the gunpowder plot of 1605, which was a plot to murder Protestant James, who was the ruler, and his members of the other and his Catholic subjects, the conflict between them. The plot was to kill James and other members of the parliament, and unfortunately that plot failed, and social unrest continued greatly. Why? Because there was extravagant spending by James, and because of which the people were very concerned, and not only that, there was excessive taxes put on them. So ultimately there was going to be a time when they would revolt, and that actually happened later on, several years later, in the form of the revolution. So this class conflict is of course one of the major themes of the particular. Next, if we go, the next theme is colonization or colonialism. This is one of the other important themes of this play. The Americans had been subjugated, Americans had been ruled over by the British or the English explorers at that time, and they desired to set up a utopian society there. Okay, so this colonialization or colonialism, as we find in India also. As we find in India also, the Britishers ruled over us. India was a colony for the Britishers and meant to be extracted and looted and plundered, just as you have in The Gift of India, the poem, okay, by Sarojini Naidu. So there you have the reference that how the Britishers had kind of plundered India of various riches and all. So this theme also is highlighted here in this play. Later on we will see when Prospero comes to this particular island and he kind of rules over it by default, subjugating its only subject, that is Caliban. So here that same conflict is being highlighted. That will come to later on as the play progresses. Next, it also introduces nature. This particular theme play introduces nature as an important element of the play. Nature plays an important role here in this play. Other tempests which are there, which we will find later on in the course of the play, they include the emotional tempest or the familial conflicts, like between Antonio and you have between Prospero and Antonio, okay, two brothers. Then you have between Alonso and his brother Sebastian, that familiar conflict, particularly between Prospero and Antonio. That conflict is very predominant here in this play. So that's one more tempest. Then there is the tempest of discord. The tempest of discord, or in case of Caliban. Caliban is dissatisfied with Prospero and he wants to take revenge against Prospero. His dissatisfaction, his desire to be free from the rule of Prospero. That is one more tempest in the play. Okay, so in a way tempest is there in different ways. Not only the storm tempest, but other small tempests are also there. Okay, next point, if we may say, the tempest, it is itself like an eruption of drama and action in the way it destroys, almost symbolic of overthrow and usurpation, which is echoed later. So this tempest is an overthrow of nature. So here there is an usurpation of overthrow. There is a desire by Prospero to overthrow. There is Antonio who overthrows Prospero from his scene. There is the desire or instigation by Antonio to Sebastian that overthrow Alonso and rule over Naples. So all this theme of overthrow, just like the storm, the tempest at sea, is a usurpation of power, which is echoed later on. Next, the fear and nervousness is conveyed well in the short, punchy sentences. So language and punctuation is very important in this scene. You have short references which convey that nervousness of the people on board, that they may be drowned, they may die. So that is significantly presented out here through this small, short, catchy phrases and short, punchy sentences and punctuations which are very important. So all this. So finally, the Tempest is rightly called a romantic comedy. Of course, it's a romantic comedy. It's not a tragedy. It's a romantic comedy. The title and the opening scene. The title, Tempest, and the opening scene itself portend. P-O-R-T and portend means they foreshadow an exploration of conflicts more complex than romantic. So there is going to be more conflicts than being a romantic play, somewhat like your 12th Night, Midsummer Night Dream. It's not going to be like that romantic way. There are going to be more conflicts here. The ending of the opening scene is done so with tragic suggestion and acts as a cliffhanger that makes us wait for the future. That means it acts as a cliffhanger. You do not know what is going to happen. It ends in that tragic kind of scenario where the boat members, or the ship members, they are doomed and you are kept on tenterhooks to know whether they are going to be saved or whether they are going to be drowned. Will these royalty on board survive? If they survive, how they are going to survive? The ship is already gone. It's destroyed. So how they are going to be surviving? How will they survive this storm? That is the question in the mind of most of the people when they see this play or read this play. They are kept on tenterhooks. It's a kind of a cliffhanger-like situation where they are kept in tension, so that you want to read the later scenes, or if you are an audience, you want to see the later scenes to know how these people are rescued, how these people are saved, or whether actually they are saved or not. All these questions remain unanswered. Okay, so now we take out our books and move on to the text. Okay, students, now I think you have your text with you. So I'll start with the text. Act 1, Scene 1 it is. Act 1, Scene 1, on a ship at sea, a tempestuous noise, means a lot of noise of a storm, of thunder and lightning heard. Thunder and lightning, that's the effect that is being produced. Enter master and boatswain. Master and boatswain. Master is the superior, is kind of the captain of the ship, and then there's a boatswain who carries out his orders. Master, boatswain? Boatswain answers, here, master. What cheer? What's the matter? Master, good. Speak to the mariners. Fall to it yearly, or we run ourselves aground. Be still, be still. He says, carry out the orders immediately and very carefully. Now, whatever text you are following, you have the word meanings side by side. I'm not going into that. It will make the video much longer. I'll just give you these ideas. So, he tells the boatswain to carry out his orders. Go and speak to the mariners. Fall to it yearly. Immediately go and tell them to be attentive towards their work and pay careful attention to whatever they are doing. Because if they are not attentive and if they are not very particular about their job, we run ourselves aground. We shall go down into the sea. That's where we will go down. If they are not attentive, if they do not put in their 100% and try to save us. Exit, enter mariners. The mariners tell boatswain. He tries to lift up the spirit of the sailors. The mariners are sailors. Boatswain, hey, my hearts, surely, my hearts, here, take to the topsail, tend to the master's whistle, blow till thou burst, thou wind, if room enough. Now, just before this, up to the part that tend to the master's whistle, he tries to lift up their spirit. He says, don't worry, we are all together in it, we'll fight it out together. He gives several instructions with regard to the topsail and telling the sailors to listen to the master's whistle. Now, master's whistle, why? In that terrible storm, it's very difficult to hear people speaking to one another, what instructions they are giving. So, it's only by sign language that they are going to talk, and the master's whistle, which is very, very shrill and sharp, that can be heard in the midst of all this storm and lightning. So, they have to pay attention to that and accordingly act as per his instructions. Now, the last part, blow till thou burst thy wind, if room enough. He curses the sea and says, and the wind, and says that you are blowing so fast, so strong and so powerfully. Blow till thou burst thy wind, if room enough. So just like a person blows out wind with his mouth, blows out air, so he curses the wind which is strongly blowing and says, blow and you will burst. You are blowing at such a speed, with so much intensity, you are going to burst very soon. Enter Alonso, Sebastian, Antonio, Ferdinand, Gonzalo and the others. This is the whole royalty who are underground in the cabin. They come up. Alonso, good boatswain, have care. Where's the master? Play the men. He says, where are the men? Are they doing their job? And where's the master? They want to talk to the highest ranking official. There is the master. Where is he? And here we are the VIPs. We have come on board, on the deck of the ship. Boatswain, I pray now, keep below. Now first he says very politely, sir, please keep below. Go to your cabins. Antonio, where's the master? Boatswain. So he's in an ordering attitude and says, hey, where is the master? Call him. I want to speak to him. Antonio says, boatswain, do you not hear him? You mar our labor. So are you deaf? You didn't listen just now. We told you to go and stay in your cabins. You mar our labor. That is, you are destroying our labor. You are hindering our labor. Whatever efforts we are doing, keep your cabins. You do assist the storm. By coming up here on the deck, you are disturbing us and preventing us from doing our job. And in that way, you are actually assisting the storm, not assisting us. Just like during the coronavirus, it is said that stay at home and you can help the doctors. So by staying at home and in lockdown, you can help the doctors do their job. Here also, by staying in the cabin, you can help the sailors do their job of trying to save the people on board. Boatswain, Gonzalo. Nay, good, be patient. And Gonzalo is a good mood. He says, please be patient. This is a royalty you are talking to. Be patient. Boatswain, when the sea is, he gives a very practical reply. He says, of course, I will be patient, I will be polite, I will be very mannerly in my statements. When the sea is calm and quiet and situations is under control, I'll definitely give all the respect and everything. Now is not the time for me to say all these things. Don't expect such things. Hence, what care these rowers for the name of king? He says, look at these waves. So these waves, what do you think? Do they care anything for who is on board? Do they care for the king or for me or any common sailor? No, they don't care for anyone. For them, everyone is equal. So here in nature makes everyone equal. Whether you are the king, whether you are the duke, whether you are some prince, it doesn't matter. Everyone is the same. Everyone is the same. The sailors, the king, the duke, everyone is the same. To Kevin, silence. Trouble us not. He says, please don't trouble us. Go to your cabins. Gonzalo. Good. Yet remember whom thou hast aboard. He says, who has come aboard? At least keep in mind about that. Boatswain, none that I love more than myself. Of course, very, very true and well said. Very practical statement. A person loves himself the most. A person loves himself the most. So what do you think? I want to try to save this ship for you all. Much more than you all, I am trying to save the ship for myself. That is, if the ship is saved, I will be saved. So for me, my life is much more significant, much more important to me than yours. So I will definitely try to save the ship in order to save myself. You are a counselor. You are a minister, you are a counselor. If you can command these elements to silence and work the peace of the present, we will not hand a rope more. He says, you are a counselor, you are a minister, you do one thing. Everyone listens to your advice, so you go out there and just tell the sea to be calm and quiet. Work the peace of the present, tell the sea to be peaceful, to be calm and relaxed. We will not hand a rope more, we will not touch a rope more. You are like God, you can command it. Just like Jesus commanded the sea to be silent and calm and the clouds to move away. Similarly here also, you can do everything. You can make everything calm and quiet. So go, you are a counselor, you go and order the storm to be quiet. We don't need to handle a rope anymore. Then use the authority, go. Use the authority. You are a high ranking official, go. Use the authority. If you cannot, give thanks you have lived so long and make yourself ready in your cabin for the mischance of the hour, if it so happen. So, if you cannot do that, give us thanks that for us and sailors, the captain, you are here at present saved. You are at present, still now you are alive because of this. Okay, so thank us, because of us you are alive. Okay, and go in your cabin and pray to God and make yourself ready so that if the mischance of the hour happens, the worst case scenario, that is if the ship drowns and we die, go in your cabins and prepare yourself for that. Cheerly, good hearts, out of my way, I say. And then he tries to lift up the spirit of the sailors and, oh, cheerly, come up. And said, oh, out of my way, I say. And he goes out, exit. Gonzalo. Now, Gonzalo is a very funny kind of a character in the sense that he tries to provide some kind of dramatic relief amidst all this sadness. Now, Gonzalo is a very kind of a gentle character in the sense that he tries to provide some kind of comic relief in spite of this serious situation. And what does he say? I have great comfort from this fellow. Methinks he hath no drowning mark upon him. He says, I have great comfort on seeing this fellow. I am very relaxed. Why? He has no drowning mark upon him. As if he can see and predict his future. I don't see any drowning mark of him. Just like an astrologer takes our hand and says, oh, you are going to die by this, you will live for so long and all that. So he makes a prediction. He is not going to die by drowning. He doesn't have any drowning mark on his, I see his face, there is no drowning mark on him. His complexion is perfect gallows. That means he is going to die by hanging. Gallows is hanging. So that means he is going to die by hanging. If he is going to die by hanging, that means he is not going to die by drowning here. That means he is going to be saved. If he is going to be saved, the ship is going to be saved. The ship is going to be saved. We are going to be saved. So I am greatly relieved on seeing him. The ship is going to reach land safely. There he is going to be hanged for some offense. He is not going to die by drowning here. Stand fast, good fate to his hanging. Fate, stand fast to his hanging. Make the rope of his destiny our cable. His rope of destiny of hanging, that rope of the gallows, that should be the rope which will pull us out of this difficult situation. His fate will be the only rope which will pull us out of this difficult situation. Why? For our own doth little advantage. Our hope, our luck, our fate is doomed. So that our luck cannot save us. So who will save us? This particular boatswain. He is going to die by hanging. So his luck is going to pull us out of this difficult situation. It's going to be like a rope which will pull us out of this difficult situation. If he be not born to be hanged, our case is miserable. And if he is not going to be drowned by hanging, then our case is miserable. Sorry, we are in a very difficult situation. What's way? Down upon the topmast he enters again. Yea, lower, bring her to try with main course. So he gives some instructions regarding the maneuvering of the ship to counter the storm. A cry within, a plague upon this howling. They are louder than the weather or our office. So he curses the weather and the loud noise that is being uttered by the storm and the wind. Why does he curse it? Because of two reasons. One, it is making or accentuating the storm, number one. Number two, because of this, he cannot shout out his commands to the sailors. The command to the sailors cannot be made. So that's one more reason. Sebastian, a pox on your throat, you bowling. Sorry, missed out one line. Re-enter Sebastian, Antonio and Gonzalo. Yet again, what do you hear? And seeing them here, again he gets angry. He says, yet again you have come here. Just now I told you. What are you doing here? Shall we give over and drown? Shall we give over and drown? But you want that. Have a mind to sink. Do you have a mind to sink? Have you made up your mind? Yes, we are going to die by drowning. Have you made up your mind like this? Sebastian is not accustomed. He is a member of the royalty or the nobility. He is not accustomed to be spoken like this. And he says, a pox on your throat, you bawling, blasphemous, incharitable dog. So he kind of curses him, he says a lot of bad words to him, slangs and all that, calling him a dog and all that. So, pox on your throat, he curses him. So, all this is said because he is not accustomed to be spoken like this by a lower ranking person from society. Boatswain, work you then, boatswain also gets angry. In such a difficult situation, tense situation, he is cursing him. He says, okay, you work then, I am not going to do anything, you work. Antonio, hang her, hang, you whoreson, insolent noisemaker. We are less afraid to be drowned than thou art. He says, we are not afraid to be drowned, you are afraid to be drowned. And he curses him again, and he says a lot of bad words again, calling him insolent noisemaker, this and that. Said Gonzalo, I'll warrant him for drowning, though the ship were no stronger than a nutshell, and as leaky as an unstaunch wench. So he says, although I warrant that he is going to die by drowning, I am sure about it. Although the ship is as weak as a nutshell, it's going to be cracked up very easily, like a nutshell, or as leaky as an unstaunch wench, or just like a woman or a girl in her periods. So it's just like that. It is definitely in a very weak kind of a condition, just like a weak nutshell holds the nut, which can easily be broken. Similarly, a weak maiden in those particular days of her month, she is very weak. In spite of this, the ship being leaking and the ship being in a very difficult kind of a situation, in spite of all this, I definitely think that he is going to die by drowning. Boatswain, lay her hold, set her 2 courses off, to sea again, lay her off. So he goes on giving instructions. Enter mariners, where the mariners follow his orders, but unfortunately all the efforts go in vain, and they come in and say, all lost, to prayers, all lost. He says, gone, all lost, to prayers. Boatswain, what? Must our mouths be cold? That is, we will die in the waters, our mouths will be cold. Must it be like that? Gonzalo, the king and the prince at prayers, let's assist them, for our case is as theirs. The king and the prince, that is, Alonso and Ferdinand are praying. Let us go and add our prayers to them. Why? Our case is as theirs. They are also going to die and drown. We are also going to die and drown. So let us pray together, at least if our prayers can save us. Sebastian, I am out of patience. I am out of patience of this deed. Antonio, we are merely cheated of our lives by drunkards. He says, these are all city sailors are all drunkards. They have been very irresponsible, and because of these people we are drowned. This white-chapped rascal, would thou mightest lie drowning the washing of 10 tides. He says, if I could, I would make him go down or make him submerged in the sand, and the washing of the 10 tides will slowly kill him. I would give him this kind of punishment if I could. Gonzalo, he'll be hanged yet, though every drop of water swear against it and gape at widest to glut him. He says, although every drop of water is saying that the ship is going to drown and we are going to die by drowning, in spite of that, I have a firm belief that he is going to be hanged still. So it's very hopeful. A confused noise within, mercy on us, we split, farewell my wife and children, farewell brother, we split. So the ship is split up, and all the sailors are jumping out into the sea, offering their last responses like farewell brother, farewell my wife, mercy on us, be split, and all that. Let's sing. Antonio. Let's all sing with the king, Sebastian. Let's take leave of him. He says, come on, let's go and take our last leave of the king. Exeunt Antonio and Sebastian, they leave Gonzalo. Now would I give 1,000 furlongs of sea for an acre of barren ground. He says, I am ready to give 1,000 furlongs of sea in exchange for an acre of barren land. That's how eager he is to live. Long heath, brown furs, anything, any kind of earth will do, any kind of ground will do. Whether it is of long heath or brown furs or it is barren ground also, that also will do. But I want ground. I want land under my feet. I don't want this water either. The wills above be done, but I would fain die a dry death. That is, I don't want to die a wet death. If the wills above, God knows what is in store for me, I don't know that. But if God gives me a preference and says, okay, Gonzalo, how do you wish to die? Whether you wish to die on the waters or you wish to die on land. In the waters or on the land, which one? So Gonzalo says that if he is given a choice by God to choose between death on land and death on the waters or in the waters, he would definitely choose the first option. He would definitely try and wish to die on land. He would not want to die in the waters. So that concludes our Act 1, Scene 1 in suspense, as we still do not know what is going to happen to the ship, and it's in fact the ship is split. What is going to happen to the ship crew and the people, the royalty? What is going to happen to them? Are they going to die or they are going to survive? If they are going to survive, how they are going to survive? So that's a question which is left incomplete in Act 1, Scene 1 for us to be answered in the next scenes. Okay. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found this explanation of help to you. If so, do like, share, and of course subscribe to my channel.